Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me again for the next installment of the gift economy talks that I'm trying to do every other week. My name is Adrian Hoppel, and today I want to talk specifically about problems and pitfalls in working in the gift economy. Um, Today really is not as technical as some of the other weeks were, but I want to talk more about um, the impact that working this way has, both in dealing with the way you self-doubt and the way other people can doubt you, and how that can inhibit your growth of your business and what you're trying to do. Um, First thing I want to talk about is fear of failure. And fear of failure, as a couple of people pointed out in the comments, and I totally agree with, is something that any business faces, any entrepreneur faces. Anytime you're chasing your dream or doing something that is slightly outside of what the confining norms are, there's that little voice inside of your head saying, stop now before it's too late, or telling you that your plan is flawed or it's not going to work, or you don't know enough to do what you're doing, and you're not the person to be doing this, and somebody else should be doing it. And it's a haunting voice, and it follows you around. Um, I would say it exists for all businesses, but I would also say that it exists even more when you're working in the gift economy. Um, Primarily because, as we've discussed before, there are no, or really very few, established businesses that are working this way. So there are no roadmaps, there are no examples. You can't go into the bookstore and find a bunch of leadership books written by people who have successfully run businesses this way and use that as a crutch when you're feeling doubtful about your own abilities to do it. So that's problem number one. Number two, you're also working against the current of our collective culture, of the established storylines that want to constantly tell you that you're doing it wrong. Everywhere you face, from high school into college and out into your working lives, there's a plan for how you're supposed to do things, and it doesn't include working this way. So the cultural impacts that you face on a daily basis, from news broadcasts to sitcoms to movies to everything else, everything is constantly telling you that everybody else is working the normal way and you're doing it in an abnormal way, and that causes a lot of fear of failure and self-doubt as well. And when you're working in the gift economy, when I say it's more specific there, it's because also the fears are very specific. Your fear in the gift economy is that it's not going to work for you, that your business or your situations, your clients, the way you're operating, it's not going to support you, that your clients will take your gift and they'll take off without any sort of gratitude back to you, and how will you be able to pay the bills? How will you be able to keep functioning? Also, when you're working in the gift, and I deal with this a lot, you can have this sort of unending sense that other people are smarter than you, that they have figured it all out, and that you really have no idea what you're doing because you're making it up as you go along. The more you read about some of the brilliant people who have sort of tried to map out the philosophies behind working this way, it can be a little intimidating. It can make you feel like what you're doing or your ideas behind it aren't at the same level as the thought leaders. And I'm not a thought leader. I don't consider myself a thought leader. I'm trying to share with you some of the on-the-ground experiences that I've had in running a business this way. But when I engage in the materials of the thought leaders, sometimes it can be really intimidating, and it can have the opposite effect and make me feel like, wow, this is so thought out and so layered and so much research and so much behind it that I don't have. Who am I kidding? I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to gain that kind of knowledge or eloquence in talking about it. And that can be, sorry about this, that can be a little crippling. It can be a little problematic for you, and it can really impact the way that you work on a daily basis, and it can totally feed into that fear basis. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. And even if I was, it's not going to work. The clients are going to fail me. Nothing is going to come together at the right time. And it can make you want to stop and walk away at any given moment. And it doesn't go away. These are issues that I've struggled with deeply even just a few days ago. There are issues that you struggle with the entire time on this path. From my opinion, there are three real keys for managing fears and working in the gift. Three really important things that help you at least to manage or mitigate the fear. And they are community, number two is community, and number three is community. And that can't be stated any more forcefully, but community is the heart of working this way. It's not something that you can do by yourself. There's not enough support for you in the world for you to attempt to go down this path on your own without a bunch of people, a tribe, a community around you to support you. There are more people in the world who will discourage you from working this way than will support you and encourage you. You have to understand that. You have to understand that most of the world is going to think that what you're doing is not the right way to work because it's against everything that our culture says is the right way to work. So when you understand that, you have to pick your tribe accordingly. You have to find the people really as local as you can who will support you, who can believe in you, who can back you up and help you through these times. Because if you're sitting there by yourself, the fear of failure will be overwhelming. Finding those people, finding that tribe, really, in my opinion, the focus should be as local as possible and as face-to-face as possible. And that's step one. There are a lot of local groups that you can join. Using a co-working space is something. These are the things that I do to kind of form my tribe. Using a co-working space. A co-working space is a very popular model that's exploded across Europe and is really taking hold here in the U.S. as well. A co-working space will be set up in a way where you can rent or lease space at a facility to work in sort of an open floor plan model. So you can grab a computer, you can grab a seat at a table, you can lease a larger office if you need to, you can share conference room space. You're basically sharing resources of a large office with other like-minded individuals. Like working at a coffee shop, but without all the noise from the people buying coffee and the baristas making coffee around you, and much more comfortable seating and better Wi-Fi. So here in Philly, there are a couple different places that I use. City Coho is a place where I rent space on a monthly basis for me and my team to meet and work together in person. We've done it once. We've met a couple other places before that. It's wildly powerful for us to be face-to-face with each other and working throughout a day and know that there are other human beings doing the same exact thing that we're doing right next to us. It helps to dissipate that fear of failure tremendously. Even if you're going there by yourself, even if you don't have a team, just being in that communal workspace can be very powerful. A lot of co-working spaces are very niche-based. They're looking for people who work in the same type of industry or doing the same type of thing. So if you are a web designer, if you're a graphic designer, you can often find co-working places to work with people who are doing the same thing. And just being in that place, even just seeing somebody else with Adobe Illustrator open on their computer working on a graphic and knowing that they're starting to work in this alternate economy can be a great place to start. Time banking is another tremendous way to build your community. Time banking, if you go to timebanks.org, it's a website that I worked on as well. It's a national time banking website here in the U.S. You can learn about how this works, but the basic premise is that everybody is going to contribute what they're good at, is going to contribute their gift, and an hour of any work is worth an hour of any other work. So an hour of house painting is worth an hour of childcare, is worth an hour of accounting review of your taxes. So you can trade an hour of your time for an hour of somebody else's time. This is another great way to break into this sort of alternate economy and kind of build your tribe up. Looking for free stores in your area. Free stores are exactly what they sound like from their name, where people donate goods and you can go into the store and you can shop for free. You can take what you need, you can leave what you need. There's no payment, there's no exchange or trade of money or goods. Finding the people who operate these free stores and volunteering or helping or even just connecting with them can be a tremendous help. And also looking for local transition movements in your area. The transition movement is is really too complicated for me to get into today, but I encourage you to look it up. Here in the Philadelphia area, you can go to Transition Town Media, and they have a really tremendous way of trying to build a community to be more resilient in the face of global pressures and stresses that are happening and will continue to happen. Any of these types of organizations, they're not working in the gift economy per se, but there are people who will understand what the gift economy is, and there are people who are willing to be interested in what you're doing and will support what you're doing. So it's not even important that you find other people who are working in the gift economy, but finding other people who think what you're doing in the gift economy is important and will help support you when that fear of failure is kind of crushing down on top of you. Those are some local things that I myself use. Looking online, looking in a more global sense, not every community has those resources available. Then that's where online sort of fills in the gap. So looking at social media, Facebook in particular, you can join larger groups there that can help you to engage with people across the country, across the world, and sort of start to share ideas and connect on a larger philosophical scale and get some of the bigger issues sort of out into the open. When you're feeling those pressures, these are great resources to jump onto and just jump into a conversation and contribute and be a part of it and get that support back. Aside from those larger groups, you can also start your own groups. You can start local, more niche-oriented groups for your community or about an issue that is important for you. Working in the gift for your industry, working in the gift for your community, in your neighborhood, in your state. And find people. People will find you. Reach out and connect with people. Total strangers, people that you may never meet face-to-face, people on the other side of the world that can share with you that insight that you need on a daily basis when you really need it and you weren't expecting it to come from them. These are just some ways that I use, and in all of these groups, the key is for you to contribute, to support, to be a resource within that group, to help out whenever you can, to offer your expertise, to offer your gift, to share your experiences with the group so that you can be an active member and that people will be engaging with you in return. It's like working in the gift economy, just in an idea-based of transaction where you're offering your experiences and your ideas in the gift, and the expectation or the hope is there that these groups, these tribes that you build, will support you in ways that you can't imagine yet, and you can't really enumerate, but the support will be there when you need it the most. So again, there's really too much in our culture that is working against you for you to do it by yourself. So the takeaway for this first part is find your tribe, find your network of people, find the people who are building those tribes and connect with them, engage and contribute, and be a part of the movement, and let the movement support you when you need it to. The next part that I want to get into is talking about how do you avoid losing faith in your ideas and your ideals. So you're battling this fear of failure every now and then, and it pops its head up in ways that you can't imagine, and the impact of that can be very much a lot of self-questioning, a lot of wondering if what you're doing is even worth it. The pressures of the world, the bills, the expenses, the wants, the needs, they're always going to be there. They're always knocking at your door, and when you get them all answered, they just start over again the next month. It's a constant cycle. We're not in the new economy world yet where we can be free of that, and those pressures are always there, and they're always sort of dragging you back. Inevitably, you'll find yourself what I call off path. When you're off path, it's when your focus is too sharp on those pressures and not sharp enough on your own gift. You can easily find yourself looking at spreadsheets and reports and bills and invoices, and suddenly your filter starts to change. When you're looking at that next client or that next opportunity, it creeps into your head, what will this opportunity give to me? What will this help me to answer these pressures? What can I get out of this? And that starts to become the first part of your process. And I'm being honest, these are pressures that everybody faces, and we like to pretend that we're above that what we're doing is is a very idealized version of working, and in a lot of ways it is, but it's disingenuous to suggest that all of us can walk away from our instincts and our experiences. So these things creep up on you, and these pressures creep in, and to pretend that we're immune to that is really going to be a recipe for failure. The opposition is fierce, it's pervasive, the old economy is nonstop, and it's going to win some battles all over you. It's going to make you feel like, you know what, I just need to pay this bill, or I just need to get this thing that I need to get. How can I do that? Because that's how we're trained since we're born. That's how culture is training us the whole way to look at how to operate in the world. And as hard as we try to walk away from that, it's never going to totally go away. And you have to be vigilant and be willing to accept that it's going to be there, recognize when it's there, and then figure out ways to get rid of it and get back on path. So the key for me to get back on path is pretty simple. When I'm feeling the pressure of working in the gift economy, when I'm feeling like I need to focus much more on myself, on taking care of my needs and my wants, and finding ways to take care of those, the thing that I do is to find ways to give more. That when the pressure of working in a gift economy feels so powerful that I'm starting to go off path, that I need to step back and find an opportunity where I can give even more of myself. And it sounds counterintuitive, but in my experience, if you push yourself, if you dive into the gift economy even deeper, especially in those moments when you're feeling the pressure to withdraw, something will happen. Something will break your way. And maybe that sounds a little new age, and maybe that's not your thing. And there's a lot of phrases and different things that suggest this type of serendipity exists. But in my experience, and hopefully that's what you're here to hear about, that happens. It just happens. It's undefinable. But a phrase that I have used my whole life, even before I started working this way, is "fortune favors the bold." It's a favorite phrase of mine, and it's one of the truest things that I've experienced. It has never become more important to me than when I started working in the gift. Being bold, reaching out, and giving more of yourself, however it works, it works. The universe, the community, the tribe, people, things you can't even imagine, unexpected help will come from unexpected places, and suddenly you'll be back on path. But for me, in my experience, the only way to do that when you're facing that question about should you continue with this ideal of yours or this idea, is to dive into it even deeper. Often for me, it's a sign that I'm not giving enough. So to push myself deeper into the gift economy is what I use to get back out and back on to path. So fortune favors the bold. That's something that I really can't stress enough. It's one of my key phrases, and I think it's just as important here in the gift economy as anywhere else. So looking at the third part that I wanted to talk about, and that's specifically how do you cope with friends and family who mock your efforts. And this is sort of controversial because people often don't know that they're mocking your efforts, and people really have your best interests in heart. And a lot of times people don't understand what you're doing. But nonetheless, it's hard. When you have friends and family, this is the hardest problem for me to deal with. They're people that you have a long-term bond with. They're people that have witnessed you in your life, and that's valuable. That's an important thing. Somebody that's known you since college, somebody that's known you since high school, a sibling that you've grown up with, a parent who brought you into this world and tried to raise you as best that they knew how, and suddenly you're doing something that seems really odd or different to them. And in a lot of cases, people don't know how to cope with that. Some people are really curious. Some people are really supportive. Some people feel challenged by it. Some people see you working this way, and they make assumptions, and they feel threatened because they feel like, in a way, it's a judgment on the way that they're working. And by that I mean, if you're really close with somebody for a long time, and you're all following the same path, and then suddenly you take a totally different path, and you're appearing on the surface to be having great success on that path, Some people will be happy for you, some people will be ambivalent, but there are some people who will look at that as you saying their path is wrong, even if those words never left your mouth. Some people will look at that and say, well, this is crazy. This is not correct what this person that I used to know is doing. How did he change? Why did he change so much? And they'll feel threatened by it. And sometimes, a lot of times, when people feel threatened, their reaction is to attack, or at least to withdraw and to not be there as a friend or a family member. And I've experienced it in both ways. Carl had a question earlier that he posted, can I share an experience where a friend or a family has tried to undermine what I was doing? Not really specifically undermine. I can't say that I've had anybody, specifically work against me, and that's what I mean by undermine. But I have had family members who have looked at what I'm doing and have mocked it, even in a subtle way. Even if you're at a family party, even if you're at a family gathering, even if you're visiting somebody, even more so if you're engaging with somebody on social media, or where there's this veil of the internet that can allow people excuse me. I've been struggling with a cold this week, so I apologize for that. This veil of the internet that can allow people to be ruder than they would be in person, and people will try and act like they're trying to learn what you're doing, but really they're just waiting to make a comment where they can tell you why what you're doing is wrong or incorrect or will never work or will fail. And when you hear that from the general public or people that you don't know, when you do things like what I'm doing right now, or you write blogs about it, or you put yourself out there to the public, inevitably you're going to get comments from people who don't understand, who haven't read or listened to whatever you wrote or have said, and have just posted negative comments about what you're doing, that it's a trick, it's a scam, that you're a liar, that this will never work, and on and on and on. And from people that you don't know, it's hard, but you can sort of walk away and say, well, this person doesn't understand me, they don't know me, and they don't know what I'm doing, so how much value can I really place on their comment to me? But when it comes from somebody who does know you, from somebody who's known you for a long time, even if you've changed drastically from where they originally met you to now, it hurts. It's problematic. It really stops you in your tracks, whether you wanted to or not. And you allow people into your lives, and they're sort of behind the curtain. They've seen you in a lot of cases at your best and your worst. They've seen you when you were a teenager and you were making mistakes. They've seen you in your 20s when you were trying to figure out life, seen you in your 30s and on. In some cases with your siblings, they've seen you since you were born. And there's a sense of vulnerability there that when they come back and say, wow, that sounds like a terrible idea, wow, that will never work, what are you trying to do? You should do these other things. It can really, really be problematic. And I don't think it's healthy to act like those impacts won't stop you in your tracks, because you've already allowed this person a lot of power and influence in your life, and not everybody who's in your life is going to really appreciate what you're doing. Back to the first comment, they're really going to fall into three groups. They're going to think what you're doing is really great and try and help. They're going to be ambivalent about it, or they're going to come back to you and tell you that what you're doing is wrong. And when it comes from friends and family, it's really hard. I've had family look at me face to face and act like everything was fine, and come back to me in a more private way, Facebook messaging or email, with absolutely horrible comments, things that I wouldn't say to my worst enemy, about what I'm doing to my life and the impact I'm going to have on my family and my children, and it's really hard. It's really hard to keep going in the face of that. And as much as you want to say, I'm not going to let that person bother me, I personally don't feel like that's a healthy way to go about it, because family and friends are really in a different class than everybody else. And when they challenge you that way, it's really hard. When somebody that you've known for a long time says, everything you're doing is terrible, and we're all laughing at you behind your back, and you've alienated yourself from the family, and we think when you're not here that you're a big joke. Whether that's true or not, whether that person is just dealing with personal issues, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but most of the times it's happened to me, or a psychologist or a therapist in any way, but most of the time this has happened to me. I look at that person and I end up feeling a sense of jealousy. People look at what I'm doing and they feel like, wow, he's sort of cutting his own path. He is out there working for himself. He's out there sort of doing what he wants to do, and he's bucking the system. And I've had people say that, you know, you're really living the dream, man. And they don't know all of these struggles that I've tried to talk about here, and the other struggles I've talked about last time. They don't know how hard it is. They think, wow, he's just working for himself and he's doing his own thing and it's all working out. And it is working out, and that's great. But for a lot of people, there's a sense of jealousy that comes in. There's a sense that comes in and says, I could have gone down that path, and I chose not to. I could have taken a big step out. I could have followed my dreams and gone after what I wanted to, but I took the safe route. And maybe my safe route is giving me a boring job or not exactly what I wanted to do with my life, but hey, look how big my house is. Look how many cars that I own. Look how fancy my kids' clothes are. So obviously I'm successful, even if I don't really love what I'm doing, and even if I look at you and what you're doing, Adrian, and it makes me feel threatened and challenged, it doesn't matter because I have all of this financial gain, so I must be winning. I must be doing it right. And yet I feel like I have to knock you down, Adrian, because I see you out there. I see your Facebook posts. I see this. I see people commenting, and it's really what I wanted to do, or it's along the lines of what I wanted to do, and now I feel like I can't, so I'm going to attack you for it in a private, sneaky, underhanded way. This happens. It has happened to me, and I don't have an answer to cope with it except to, once you know that it's possible, once you know that the potential is there, and once you start to think about why people that you have strong relationships with are going to attack you that way, you can maybe shift the focus in your own mind, in your own heart, back onto them and wonder what sort of struggles they're trying to deal with that would cause them to attack you this way. But you have to find a way to compartmentalize it and not let it stand in your way. That people who are in that third group that are actively working against you, even if it's just a subtle comment at a party, even if it's just a Facebook message or an email, even if it's something more overt, that they're trying to block you and stop you and inhibit you for their own reasons, not for yours. That there are a community of people that are working this way, that are doing it, that are willing to support you, and you have to shift your time away from the people that are dragging you down to the people that are going to support you. And it's harder with a family, it's harder with friends, but if you find yourself spending time responding to and dealing with these people, it's pulling you off path. It's pulling you away from what you need to do. And they're not going to help you. They're not going to try and understand what you're doing. If they're in that third group, if they're actively working against you, you have to compartmentalize and distance yourself from them and try and focus and spend your time in a community that's going to support you and keep you going. Sometimes that's easier said than done. With some family, you're going to see them on a regular basis. You're going to see them not only on Facebook, you're going to see them at family gatherings. Some friends you're going to cross paths a lot. And how you cope with that as peaceably and as calmly as you can is really your job, is really your responsibility to say, this is going to pull me off path. This is a distraction from what I'm trying to do. This is going to challenge my ideas and my ideals. This is going to contribute to my fear of failure. I need to not have this person in my life as strongly as they are. I need to just walk away. I need to pull away. I need to engage with them less. I need to engage with my tribe, with the people that are supporting me more. And how you do that and how that happens, again, is not necessarily an easy thing to do, and I'm not suggesting that it is, but it remains something that you have to do. So keep that in mind, and I'm going to take a look at some of the questions here that are popping up here. Charlie wants to know, how do you keep the, quote, show me the money people from undermining your plan before it can even get on the table? Do you hide the table? It's kind of a good question, Charlie, and it's kind of hard to do. When you're sort of working out what the plan is going to be, and you're keeping in mind that some people are really going to work against you, and there are people who are going to say, well, how does this work? Where does the money come in? And sort of diminish what you're doing from there. Maybe you do keep the plan off the table. Maybe it's not there for them. I'm trying to put as much as I can out into the public sphere in the hopes that it will help people. And there are a lot of negative people who come back and suggest that what I'm doing is not effective, is not helpful, and want to know those types of details. And maybe they're not the people that I have the time to engage with. You have sort of another saying that I've always used in my life is your day is like a pie, and you can cut up your pie and give slices out however you want. You can give larger slices to some people and smaller slices to some things and ideas, but it's really up to you to divide up the pie however you want. But there's only so much pie in a day. There's only so much time you can give to people. So the people who are focused on show me the money, the people that are focused on trying to get down to the details, that really just want to prove that you don't have the details, prove that your plan is going to fail, they're not worth a slice of pie to me. They're not worth the time. I need to focus on people and engage with people who are interested in helping me, not sit here and be challenged time and time again that working in the gift is going to fail by people who don't believe in it. So that's my view on that. Carl suggests that perhaps it's ignorance, that people just don't get it. I think that's a huge part. And to the extent that I can help people who actively want to learn what I'm doing and how it's working, I try and be as much of a resource as I can. I try and put as much information out there as I can, particularly in these ways that people, if they want to learn, if they want to overcome that ignorance, it's there. But at the end of the day, it's not truly my responsibility to help people understand what I'm doing if the information is there for people to learn and they're not interested in learning, but they're still interested in sort of attacking what I'm doing. Then you sort of have to make a judgment call: is this person valuable in my life? They're not interested in learning anything about what I'm doing. They just want to point out why they think it's going to fail. So at that point, you have to decide how much you want to engage with them. Another question that's down here is from Jenny. How do you handle a request from a potential client if you feel unsure about the person, but you can't really put your finger on why you're feeling that way? How do I know if there's really something to worry about or if it's only my fears talking? That's really the magic question. And your own ability, particularly when you're dealing with a client and when you're trying to bring a client on and offer your gift to them, and this little voice in the back of your head is saying, there's something about this client where I feel like the gratitude is not there, that I feel like they're looking to take advantage from me, that they recognize what I'm doing, that there is an opportunity for them to take my gift and to just run away and to benefit from this relationship without any thought at any point in helping support me to continue on. When that little voice is in the back of your head going, and it pops up, and the best I can say is spend as much time as you can thinking about why that voice is in your head. What is it about that interaction with that person that is making you feel that way? Is it something that they said? Is it their affect? Is it the industry that they're coming from? I've had doubts from people who wanted me to help them create websites for their organization, and I know that they are in a very traditional economy, and I know that they have a lot of financial resources available, and yet they want to come to me, but there's no discussion about why I work this way. The whole entire discussion is really based on what can they get from me. And yeah, that thought pops into my head is, why do you want to work with me? You don't seem to have any interest in learning about how the gift economy works. You just want to know how much you can get from me. And I recognize that you've existed up to this point in a very traditional economy, and that it's more natural for you to just call a traditional web designer to help you get your work done. So why are you here with me if you're not interested in and learning about the gift economy? You're just interested in taking from me, or so it seems. Why is that? And that has caused me skepticism a lot of times. And is that fair or not? I've really had to do a lot of soul searching. There have been some clients that I've walked away from just because my instinct was that it was going to be a very one-sided relationship. I try and help as many people as I can, sometimes to the detriment of helping the people that I'm helping because I have too many projects going on. But in order to help as many people as I can, I can't really afford, not so much from the financial side, but from the time side, to take on projects with people who are really only in it to take from me without any thought or hope of giving back in any way, either to other organizations or really who are just not willing to engage in the gift economy. So struggling with that fear over a client, I guess my takeaway is I do as much introspection, as much looking inside to say, why am I having the doubts about this client, and really trying to figure out, is it my own built-in prejudices, is it my own built-in sense of what they're saying and why, or the industry that they work in, and is that influencing me in a negative way, because that's only natural as well, or is there something legitimate here that is giving me cause to have pause in working with this client? And the more you work in the gift, I think the better you get at that. I'm much more comfortable now working and engaging with new clients. I can still say with a lot of pride that over 2 years now, I haven't had a client that hasn't engaged with me fully in the gift cycle. And I've only really had to walk away from a couple clients, and they were for kind of specific reasons. So you might make mistakes. You might make mistakes both ways. You might walk away from a client that is truly really interested in working with you, and you might take on a client that really is just trying to take advantage from you. In both cases, you're still receiving a gift in that experience, and the best thing you can do is take that experience and apply it to the next interaction you have with somebody. Another question that is here is how do you go back face to face with family members when you've had these negative interactions? I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. It's something that I deal with and will continue to have to deal with. I know the kind of person that I want to be, and the peacefulness that I want to project, and the lack of conflict that I want to have in my life. So I try and stay on that side of the tracks. I don't have a great answer for that. It is really hard. And there are people that are in your life that are dragging you down. There are people that are trying to stand in your way that you can walk away from, and there are some that you can't walk away from that are going to be there in your life moving on. You have to internally compartmentalize and give that person, the limited amount of access into your life that they've really proven that they want, and keep them in that box and not let them distract you off path. Is that easy to do? No, it's not. But it is critical for what you're doing, and kind of picking up those skills is really important. Kevin has a comment here that says, quote, "Should is a trigger word. It represents a disconnect between a story or a belief or a deeper desire that someone holds." I think I understand what you mean, Kevin, and if I'm understanding your comment correctly, are you implying that should is an expectation that people should react a certain way, or that we have an expectation that people should greet what you're doing or treat what you're doing in a certain way, and when they don't meet our expectations, is that what's causing the disconnect or the problem? Should is a trigger word, and we bring a lot to the table with should in our own experiences and our own basis of how we want people to act, and we create that should type of environment, and when they don't meet our expectations, we get flooded with negative feelings, and it can be overt against that person, and it can be inhibiting to ourselves. So really, if I'm understanding your point correctly, at least the way that I understand it, I think is a great point, and trying to think about how we create our expectations of how people should react to what we're doing can be really beneficial as well. All right, so I think I have all of the questions here. I hope what you found to be helpful today, and I realize it's not as technical, and it's based more on my own experiences. Your mileage may vary. You may have totally different experiences in your own path, and I'd love to hear about them. You can jump on my website, adrianhoppel.com, and there's a tab for Plus Gift Economy where you can view this and my past Hangouts. There's a form there to submit a question. I'd love to hear your comments. If I didn't get to your question today, if I missed it somehow, submit it there, and I'd love to get back to you via email. I'd love to hear your own experiences, and again, this is my own journey down the path. And if anything that I'm doing helps you on your path, then that's great. We're going to pick this up in about 2 more weeks, and really, I want to include people specifically about in the community, about people who are working in some of the ways that I talked about, people who are working in time banks, people who are working in free stores, people who are working in co-working spaces. I want to bring them on here and sort of have a panel discussion about other people in these types of communities that are working and what their experiences are as well, to kind of give a broader framework aside from just me and my experiences, and aside from just working in the gift economy, to sort of get a feel that there are a lot of other people out there. There is a community for you to become a part of. There is a tribe there that you can join and engage with, and to show you their faces and let you hear their voices, the people that I'm using and engaging and interacting with myself, to kind of suggest that these people are out there as well. So when you're dealing with fear of failure, when you're dealing with struggling to keep your ideas and your ideals, when you're dealing with friends and family who are sort of knocking what you're doing and the impact that has on you, to recognize that these people really physically exist and they want to engage with you, and the more you engage with them, the more you'll be able to cope with some of these problems and pitfalls of working in the gift economy. So thanks a lot for your time. Again, if I didn't get to your comment or anything, please reach out to me offline. Through my website's the best. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anywhere else you are. I'm not instantly engaging with people on there, but I will get back to you. So thanks a lot for everything, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks.